No, shouldn't do that.
Okay,
Audio.
so speed, roll, and anytime base.
Okay, so can you introduce yourself again and your role in J2?
Hi, I'm Luka Kunčević. I was a music composer. Hi, I'm Luka Kunčević. I was a music composer on J2.
When you decided to take work on the film, what was your approach?
Well, on every movie it's different, right? In the beginning you think, oh, okay, I might know the approach, but then after some time when you start thinking about it, you see that the movie actually tells you what kind of score it should be. There are different approaches. Sometimes it's like a generic approach which you take and you say, oh, okay, I'm going to score an action movie, but actually it's much more than that if you start digging deeper. But usually the way I start is I watch the movie and then I think about what kind of sound character, what kind of sound palette this movie requires to actually make it that movie alone, right? So I start, it's funny, from a chaos in a way. I come up with the sounds that I'm going to use, but I don't have the structure, I don't have the musical ideas or something. First thing I ever try to do is to basically come up with the right sounds, with the sound palette. When I have that, then I go into something I call a chaos stage, which is I throw all these instruments together, and then every now and then it starts to feel right, a combination of all of that. And then when I say, oh, okay, this feels right, then I start cleaning up all the chaos and making some sense out of it.
Can you tell us a bit about the score for J2 and what was the experience like for you?
Well, experience was great because the team is great, right? So working with the team, with Gaia and the team, that's always great, right? So it was actually a lot of fun, I think, and for me it was a lot of fun because sometimes, you know, what happens is sometimes you get stuck or something, but on this movie it was just constantly, we also had a little bit of extra time, so we were constantly making it better and better and better because we had this time, but it was super fun, super fun. Yeah.
And in what ways do you try to incorporate parts of the story you're working with into the score? Like, when you say your process about watching it, you know, reading the script, how do you put them together?
You know what? I would call it like, there is a few approaches, right? I'm basically a classically trained guy, so if I applied that approach, then I would be very analytical. I would say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, you know, and something, which it can be done that way. But for some reason, what happens to me is basically the instinct takes over. And that instinct leads to the chaos that I mentioned earlier. So basically, I make it much harder for myself because I create chaos and skip this process of you know, like the usual approach. And then sometimes I don't even show the chaos stage to, to the director or the producer, because if they heard it, they would think, oh my God, what is this, you know? But for me, probably that's the hardest part, right? Let the instinct take over, create the chaos, and then organize the chaos, and then have something which becomes the score, which actually has its own character. You know how they say, for some scores, like the score is also a character, right? It sounds a little bit cliche, but in some cases that's actually true. And that's, I think, also part of that instinct thing, right? When the score actually is not just commenting what's going on the screen, but it's actively participating. Sometimes it's anticipating, right? So that kind of stuff, yeah.
So for J2, what was some of the inspiration behind the music that you had?
The inspiration behind the music. Well, the inspiration behind inspiration is always, you know, the picture that you work with, right? So if the picture is great, then inspiration is easier. And like on every film that I work on, what happens is like after some time you basically fall in love with what you're working on, right? And it starts to really matter to you. So I think what inspired me on this one was
Sorry to
Luca, sorry, just have to cut. When you keep turning to the right, I only see half of your face, your profile. It doesn't really look complimenting on TV. So I did try not to turn too much to your right.
To my right.
Yeah, when you start thinking, so I lose half of your face.
Okay.
You know?
So
Yeah, I
so
want to see your
where
full
should
face.
where should we start
You
from?
can look at this. You can talk about the inspirations about the music.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so we
Which one?
go back to the inspiration behind the
This
music.
kena ke depan.
Pun,
Yeah.
please, can you...
Go to the right a bit. Because Luca banyak turn to the right kan?
I have a tick.
Yeah. No, it wasn't obvious at the beginning, but as you were start to think more about it, try to recall the memories, you were facing towards the right too much.
Okay, good.
Ah, better look again.
This.
See your full handsome face.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ready?
Okay.
Okay, go.
I'll try not to think about what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
That's the hard one.
I know.
That's very